Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We're coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. We can also be found on www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring Everything is Frequency. Everything is frequency, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. Albert Einstein. Life, death, health, illness, enlightenment, and/or unconsciousness are all locations on the bandwidth of frequency, the totality of which some of us refer to as God. Where we find ourselves on that bandwidth at any given time dictates our reality and our experience. The greater frequency mobility we have, the more vision, wisdom, choices, and therefore personal power to manifest available to us. Even genius is simply a greater level of frequency mobility. Each of us has the potential for great genius and, for that matter, pure divinity. Yet we're seemingly reduced to monovision children squabbling over broken toys, living in a world of fear, lack, and greed. Why? We've become like an AM radio in an FM world. The FM bands are there, but we simply can't tune into them. Therefore, to us, they do not exist. Only the programming on the AM channels is accessible and thus perceived as reality. We were designed to be sovereign beings capable of interfacing with and manifesting at the quantum level, where matter is still malleable rather than set in form. Our original design cannot be exploited or controlled except through the compromising of our frequency. However, the common denominator frequency of the masses at any given time creates an agreed-upon reality that's difficult for a single individual to transcend. Therefore, he who controls the frequency of the masses controls reality. By the compromising of frequency on all four levels, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, an almost unbreakable web has been woven around the masses, and only the elite prosper. For generations, our physical frequency has been increasingly compromised by chemicals, pollutants, and imbalanced lifestyles. Our emotional frequency is jammed up with unprocessed and judged against emotion. Our mental frequency has been programmed by the educational system and belief structures of the populace at large. Our spiritual frequency has all been abandoned for dogma, effectively restricting us to the mundane. In this way, our personal systems have been hacked, our sovereignty compromised, and our capacity to create commandeered to serve the current systems. Our unprocessed emotions are used to manipulate us through advertising and terrorism, while we live not in the present, but in the morass of our past traumas. There is no solution within what has become our limited reality, for there we are reduced to trying to make the best out of what is at hand and already in form, rather than being able to create at will. Thus, the aforementioned monovision children squabbling over broken toys. The journey out of Babylon, if you will, is in correcting the frequency imbalances we've all been subjected to for generations on all four levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. This is a very personal and inside process, with no two journeys being exactly the same. There's no right or wrong correction, but simply what's appropriate to the time, frequency, and intention at hand. It's an intense journey requiring a death of sorts to who we are not in order to embrace our potential. The challenges are many, but the reward's great. For nothing less than the future of our race depends on those few brave individuals willing to move beyond their own limitations and create a vibrational gateway to what can be. The more of us that walk this path to enlightenment, the greater the light shining the way. Our guest this hour has been working with frequency for the last decade and a half. Dr. Kimberly McGeorge is the author of The Secret to Everything, Manifesting the Life You Desire Now. Kimberly has over 24 years of clinical experience in both the alternative health and energy healing fields. She's worked on thousands of clients in person and remotely around the world. She's been experimenting with the frequencies found in various products with her clients and is convinced that the frequencies she's been using could be applied to all areas of her clients' lives. A popular teacher and lecturer, Dr. Kimberly has worked with paranormal groups regarding energy in people and property. A talented remote viewer, Dr. Kimberly is commonly consulted for many different issues in her clients' lives. I will introduce Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and explore her viewpoints on frequency, health, and manifestation after this short break. You are listening to The Science of Magic. This and other innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our special guest this hour is Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, naturopathic, energy practitioner, remote viewer, and author of The Secret to Everything, Manifesting the Life You Desire Now. Dr. Kimberly, you have over 24 years of clinical experience in both the alternative health and energy healing field. Thank you so much for joining us on The Science of Magic to share your experiences.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
As a naturopathic energy healer, how do you see the relationship between frequency and physical health?
Oh, gosh, I could talk about this for like 30 days. So basically, we're energy beings. Your whole show is kind of about this whole concept, and you so beautifully and eloquently talked about it yourself before the show. But we go into the energy field with all this beautiful new tech that we have because of the time that we live in and the equipment that we have access to. And we're able to be super, super specific, because what I found with working in people's energy fields over a number of years is that the body, emotions, mind, soul, spirit, energy field is so super specific and always requests exactly what it needs at that time to come to balance super quickly. So frequency is totally related to physical health because, as we know, everything starts outside the field, whether it's mental or spiritual or emotional or just toxic environment, and then it goes in and hits the physical body and creates imbalance, which of course ultimately results in disease.
So you see diseases starting in the frequency realm and then manifesting physically, is that correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, except for one exception, which of course everything's frequency, so literally, yes. But the genetic inheritances, which are quite big, and miasms, things like that, we do kind of see already present at birth.
Oh, I love the thought of miasms. Would you mind expounding?
it's kind of a complex, ancient homeopathic principle, but the light version, which I'm sure you know the deep version, but the light version is kind of like inherited genetic tendencies. So you can have an inherited genetic tendency, frequency, to addiction or to develop cancer when you're under stress instead of diabetes. Or it also goes along with certain personalities and certain ways of thinking, which isn't really too shocking with what we know about the DNA.
So you see this as a DNA frequency maladjustment?
Yeah, perfect.
And so that gets passed down from generation to generation, but it isn't necessarily our original design?
Oh, well, I believe our original design is absolute perfection, living in absolutely amazing, fun, and perfect world. So, no, definitely not our original design. The cool thing is that the body, the mind, the soul, the emotions, everything within us actually knows what that perfect original blueprint was, and it's always striving. Whether you know anything about energy medicine or not, or natural medicine or not, it's always striving to get back there.
Do you suppose that's the dissatisfaction people kind of automatically feel towards life these days? It's like everybody I talk to, it's always they feel like things should be better, but they can't really put their finger on what they mean by that.
I was just talking about this with my children. My parents are older, of course, and I was talking about how they don't really understand some of the stuff that I do, and how we're so toxic and we don't even realize it. So we're bombarded with EMF, and we're bombarded with chemtrails, we're bombarded with GMOs in our food, and we come in with this imperfect, template, and, we have horrible relationships, and we don't practice self-love, and we don't have a spiritual connection. And, I could say all the things that we don't do for hours, but every single one of those things causes stress on the body and energy field and emotions and mind. Or it causes, even worse, after repeated, length of time of stress, it causes severe weakness, which is when we start to see the actual disease and emotional imbalances and mental condition.
So there is no one answer from what I'm hearing. Everybody has their own complex web of imbalances that have created their overall imbalance that's now compromising their health on all levels, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm going to hire you to be my double because you say things so well. That's exactly what I'm saying.
How do you see the frequency of food versus processed ones, so live food versus processed ones, as impacting our health? Because it seems like now you walk in the grocery store, and unless you're just walking on the outside aisles, everything is packaged and chemicalized and processed. Do you see that as being a problem?
I think it's a huge problem. And I grew up in the 60s and 70s. And it's amazing how we think that things that come out of cans and all this processed food like you talk about and all these, ice cream with additives, and it doesn't really matter even what food group it is, but it's so corrupted. And, those of us that grew up in that era even were corrupted as far as kind of, we had a dessert and we had a starch and we had a meat. And so I just think food is so corrupted as a whole. And in my opinion, it's not even the toxicity of food that's a problem, but we see so much food sensitivity that we literally are seeing like vegans that eat organic for 30 years come down with cancer. And then they have to start looking even more minutely at their food choices and say, can I handle gluten and can I handle milk products? And am I, even a bigger question, do I have the enzymes to break down these foods and digest them? So food is you talk about complicated, what we put in our mouth and what we drink and eat is actually half probably the stress that we take into our body and our energy field on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's amazing. I had a homeopathic physician that was a colleague of mine. He's since crossed, but he says, if you look at your food and you look at the frequency of your body, if your food is of a lower frequency than your body, you're on the losing end of that equation. And most of what we put into our bodies is actually at this point been so shipped and chemicalized and GMOized and all that stuff that it's actually not food at all. And so our body is having to use energy to deal with this stuff rather than gaining energy from consuming it. And then we talk about the problem we end up with acquired food allergies because guilt by association, it looks like food, but it's not really. And pretty soon the body starts attacking anything that looks like the artificial food did in the first place. Is that kind of what you're talking about here? And would you mind speaking to that?
Yeah, I really think what your friend or your doctor said was brilliant, because if it isn't good for you and your frequency and where you're at, like I said, it can be an organic apple or a pear, but it could be toxic to your field if you run at a higher frequency. And then, like you said, we have to put out energy, just even food that does match our frequency, but we have to put out tons more energy because it becomes a toxin, basically, and we have to get rid of it and drain it out of the body. So we have to detoxify it, the two-step process, detoxify and drain it out of the body. So that's like even more energy. So really what we're looking for, obviously, is something that's going to give us energy and nourish our body and soul and not take energy away. And again, it's so individual. So even if we take out the allergen and sensitivity factor, it does have to match your frequency. Now, thankfully, or not thankfully, I find when we go in and we work with fields of people that the frequencies of people today run so super, super low that really their body is just craving, like a whole concentrated green food powder or really herbs, more of the whole natural foods, not what we necessarily think of as food, but something that the body can easily assimilate without a lot of stress.
Yeah, it's sad that we've stressed our bodies to the point that they actually need special foods to start to heal and recuperate. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, there seems to be a lot of good products out there for that. What products do you use to correct physical frequency imbalance on the physical level with your clients?
Yeah, I love that you asked that. I don't really want to promote any certain brand, but I think you have to be really careful of your brands because, they've done these tests. I just read this recently in a lot of the Walmarts and you think you're buying good brands or you think you're buying vitamins, but they're finding that they don't even have anything in them. They're just all fillers, all corn or all just junk. And so that's kind of crazy, but I don't use a lot of supplements, to be honest with you, with my clients now. I used to. And I do supplement, like you kind of referred to, when someone has a really chronic, serious disease like cancer or diabetes for a long time. But we're finding that the body just loves energy because when you can scan someone or look at someone and give them exactly the frequencies they're requesting, exactly the right amount with exactly the right time, then the energy field and the body and the RX field adjust very, very quickly. And it kind of sucks that in. So to me, frequency is food.
And food that isn't frequency is not food at all.
Good point.
So how does physical death relate to frequency as we're speaking of it?
How does physical death? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. That's what I said.
To me, it doesn't. I know this might be a strange perception. I think that's a great question. There's just no difference to me because I see interdimensionally too, with my own natural abilities, and I act on different levels of spirits and energies and entities. To me, there's no difference between this world and the next. It's just a seamless passing. I don't really, I see it as actually enhanced frequency. So our frequency goes through the sky and we're able to pass through walls and we're able to have this natural lightness of being that is really our natural inheritance, I guess.
I'm so glad you put it that way, because what I've seen, and we'll get into it in the next segment, is the difference between life and death in the physical body, and as you watch somebody pass, how energy moves from one place to another, but is never diminished. So it's a pretty fascinating subject, and we will tackle it on the other side of this commercial break. This has been Science of Magic. We'll return to our discussion after this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic, and I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. You want more? Other innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. We can be found on www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our special guest this hour is naturopathic energy practitioner, remote viewer, and author, Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, www.kimberlymcgeorge.com. Kimberly, just before the break, we were talking about life, death, and frequency. I want to relate something to you, and then maybe you can explain it to us. When I had some Ghostbusters come to see what happens to a shamanic person when they do a journey and out-of-body experience. And they brought all their instrumentation and everything else. And one of the things they were reading was with EMF, they were reading EMFs off of my body. And I was sitting idling at a particular level of EMFs, and then I went into the journey trance, and my frequency went up, and then it dropped down, but then they were able to see my frequency leave my body, and they followed me down the hall. So the frequency that I was carrying shifted greatly in my body, then dropped way, 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 way down, and yet the one that left my body was greater than what the body, if you'd have done the math. So once I was out of my body, my frequency level was higher than when I was in it. Do you have anything you can say about that?
Well, I'm not surprised because it relates to kind of what I was just talking about. That is our natural state, is able to, I want to kind of say, be in a spirit form, but still be fully us as a soul. So we kind of lose the density or the lower frequency body because everything that we can actually touch that we can't put our hand through is usually a lower frequency in the range. So you're just able, because of the frequency state that you're able to attain and your particular abilities, to basically call in that state now, is how I see that.
Okay, great. Well, we've been talking about frequency and the physical relationships. Let's talk about what's the relationship between frequency and emotion.
Well, usually when I'm working with someone who has been given a death sentence by the conventional medical organization, let's say, one of the things that keeps popping up when we're asking the body, the energy field, the soul, what it would like us to focus on first, because like you said, it's a tangled web and it's kind of layers and we have to unpeel it. It's always the emotions, and a lot dealing with the negative emotions and the lower frequencies and how that's bearing on the body and the disease process. The other thing that we see is even some of the positive emotions that are missing, or that again are out of balance because the body just craves harmony. We really have to address that first. We also see the emotions having the most dramatic effect in the auric field. So I run a lot of scans and RF scans and things throughout each day, and I run a lot on myself, try and tweak and adjust my energy with frequencies. And sometimes I'll run a scan and then I'll get angry at one of my girls or yell at the dog. And immediately we see that energy, those lower frequencies, come directly into the aura. And that's the time to really let it go. And so I think I've learned working in this, especially the past couple years, and really working a lot with the technology with the aura, how important it is to process your emotions and let them go, because the aura will quickly rebalance and not sink into the physical tissue and start to cause that stress and weakness and lead to disease.
I'm so glad you say that because one of my original shamanic teachers, actually, it was a Celtic shamanic teacher. He said that
Mm.
actually what tempers us and makes us a hollow bone or able to really channel the frequency or energy like you do in order to heal others is our ability and willingness to move through the joy and sorrow sine wave without clinging to any or rejecting any or judging against any, just letting it move through us. And that would be that processing, wouldn't
Mm.
it?
Yep, that is exactly the process. And I've actually changed the way I teach a little bit because I'm teaching more from the place of harmony and not plugging in and holding a certain viewpoint than I ever did before. And it's just based on that observation, what you just said.
It's so important to be able to embrace in every moment whatever our experience is, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's owning that, and I call it, one of the things I call it is power standing. So it's standing fully in whoever you are being. If you're being completely authentic as a soul and you are angry, then stand behind that and fully feel that and own that, but release that and rebalance that and bring in something new and be able to be in that flow of emotion and be okay with it and be okay with others' emotions, because in American society especially, we aren't okay with drama. We aren't okay with emotions. We aren't used to passionate people and people that freely express themselves.
So, do different emotions carry different frequencies?
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And even more specific is, people say she's angry and I'll say, no, she's not. She's jealous or she's enraged because, I've just worked with frequency so long. I can pick up that nuance of anger. There's so many subdivisions of every single emotion.
And they're usually cross-dressing and not what they appear. I'm with you. I'm pretty empathic myself, and I feel people's emotions as it comes to me, and it rarely registers in me what they think it is in the moment. And then there's the issue of projection. If we don't own our emotions, we're projecting it onto people in our world, and that can be very damaging as well because we're projecting a frequency onto them that doesn't belong. Do you see it that way?
I do think that's a danger. I think we all have done that. I think we most clearly see it sometimes in romantic relationships or people that, we're very intimate with and that we live with. And, I was just talking about this with someone too. When you do run like you do at a higher frequency, though, you do become somewhat resistant to, psychic attack, even if it's not deliberate, or people throwing things on you or trying to stick their stuff on you or project their stuff on you. So that's always an encouragement to me to keep balancing, rebalancing, and going higher.
Yeah, it seems to me like if you aren't carrying it yourself, there's nothing in you for it to resonate with. So it can just kind of move through you without having a whole bunch of an effect. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that place of neutrality. It just doesn't, you don't have to go into, there's nothing to stick. There's nothing, if someone is coming against you with anger and there's no resonance, you're not holding that frequency in your field. You're not going to be triggered and you're not going to get angry. You're just going to allow them to express themselves, but not necessarily respond in kind. And
isn't really that one of the
to
greatest services we can offer each other is to just be a neutral witness in the times of imbalance?
Yeah, I like that. Neutral witness is a great term.
So what have you experienced about how frequency affects a person's ability to accurately perceive the world?
I've observed as your frequency comes up, usually your abilities start to open up and you are able to maybe see spirits or maybe know things, or maybe your third eye is open or your crown is more connected, and you become, because I believe to all of us, all information is available, past, present, future, multi-dimensional information at all times. It's our inability to read that signal or perceive that information that's on us. And so then we start to unpeel the layers. Why? Are we so toxic? Are we so clouded with emotions? Are our abilities not open up? Or is our frequency too low? Like, there's just a lot to that.
What are the differences between lower frequency thought forms and those of a more, shall we say, expansive one?
the highest frequency thought forms are able to actually hold very, very slow brainwaves and very, very high, fast-paced brainwaves at the exact same time. In other words, be in total multi-tracking in their being, which what does that do? Balance. It's harmony. It's the still point. It's the everything. It's the all. And so that is a high frequency being. Now, the lower frequency beings, they don't necessarily stay at a slow or high frequency of brainwave, but they bounce all around. And that's just using the brainwaves kind of the window to this. But, we all have our own frequency, and you are able to change it. You are able to raise it as you detoxify your body, as you connect spiritually, as you practice like you do, spiritual disciplines, and you practice seeing, and you practice knowing, and you walk in that, and you stand behind it. You become, I call it, you raise your frequency, you hold your frequency, and you expand your frequency.
Very beautifully stated. Time's going so fast, we're going to have to take another break. We'll be right back on the flip side of this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Our theme song, One People, One Nation, is from the Winds of Time album by my musical group Starfire and can be found on iTunes.com, cdbaby.com, Amazon.com, and my website, GwildaWiyaka.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic. We're coming to you from the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. I am your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour, we're talking to Kimberly, Dr. Kimberly, and she is the author of a wonderful book. Kimberly, would you mind telling us where people can find your book?
I think it's really super discounted on Amazon.
No problem.
I'm pretty sure.
Just for clarity's sake here, now I want to go into the spiritual realm, my personal favorite. And just for clarity's sake, when I'm speaking of the spiritual realm, I'm actually referring to the quantum mechanical aspect of life rather than a religious one. So with that said, how do you see frequency limitations or imbalances preventing a person from accessing and affecting change at the quantum level of their personal lives?
Well, I'm all about, and I know you are too, empowering people and teaching them kind of how to overcome that dense 3D view that they might have been raised with or programmed with. And so really not knowing how to access the quanta and your relationship with the all affects everything. And when you start to play in that, as you said earlier, the sky's the limit. I mean, as a matter of fact, my children yell at me all the time. They're like, Mom, don't say it. Take it back. Strip it from the quanta. Because they have seen so many times, negatively and positively, things instantly change in the physical reality based on one sentence that I say.
I love that so much. I've had similar experiences with my kids. I'll be driving down the road when they were little, and I mutter some grumbling because I'm having some road rage, and my son will say,
Right.
"Mom, that's the nastiest curse I've ever heard you lay on anybody." And so I'll go, "Okay, take it away, take it away, take it away." Being conscious of what we say and think in any given moment is paramount, isn't it?
It sure is, because every thought has a frequency. Every word has its own frequency. And so, of course, as we're thinking and saying that, we're bathing, first of all, before we even put it on anyone else, we're bathing in those words and those thoughts. And so it's going to affect every single aspect of us, either negatively or positively. And, by virtue, obviously, our outer reality, too.
You mentioned frequency as it relates to manifestation, and this is a really fun subject. Would you mind expounding on that one for us?
Right. Well, when you run at a high frequency, it becomes very easy to manifest, because you cannot attract anything less than who you are being. I also like to say you cannot attract what you're not ready for. You can, but it's not going to hang around very long. So, definitely vibrating at the level or above, which you kind of referred to earlier, of things like platinum, of gold, of laughter, of love, of the rich experiences of life, and it's not all about money. Having an amazing life and being wealthy is so much more than having a lot of money. We all know people who have a lot of money that are miserable, but it really becomes kind of crazy where you write your own adventure. You get to decide who you're attracting to you, what you're doing romantically, what you're doing career-wise, where you're going to live. And like I said, you can get good enough that the thought barely enters your mind. I mean, it's so crazy. I was thinking yesterday, I need to call a realtor. And you know what? A realtor that I met 2 years ago called me. That's not
Instant
coincidence.
manifestation. Do you see manifestation as happening with our will, if you will, in the quantum level?
I do. I wish as a collective there were more people like, I don't want to say you and I in an exclusive way. I want to say in an inclusive way. Everyone can be and play and be similar to the things we're talking about today. I really see it more in a negative way in 3D reality. I see the dense collective kind of winning a lot of the time. And a lot of this, what I call BS about awakening, I don't see it. I mean, I don't watch the news a lot, but I'm very tapped in when I want to be to 3D reality. And it's not getting better. It's not. And so I think part of it is because we play in this generic love and light world where we're not really giving people the tools and we're not educating. I mean, you are, but a lot of us in the consciousness world, and I'm very inclusive with that, with the paranormal and with New Age and with, all branches, I guess you might want to say, but we're not doing a very good job, I don't think.
I couldn't agree with you more. A very dear friend of mine said, there's nothing new out there. And it seems like the same old concepts are being hashed, and we're going downhill in a way because there's a missing piece. And I think that you're onto that missing piece because the missing piece is to do with frequency and with balance. Could you speak on frequency as it relates to personal evolution?
I just got chills all over my body. Like my hair is standing up on end when you said that. You're so intuitive. About 15 years ago with my clients, I asked the question, what is at the bottom? It's not just applied kinesiology. It's not just bottles and bottles of homeopathic remedies, which is frequency. It's not, selling people $500 with a grocery bag of supplements that they're not going to take. There's got to be something more deeper. And of course, it appeared shortly after that, and it was, mostly an answer to my own health problems that I was on this relentless search, because I always believed there was something at the bottom. And to be honest, I don't know what you believe, but I haven't found anything other than possibly the concept of which I believe in, God. But short of that, I don't think there's anything else this world is made of. It's all frequency. I have some friends, and we've had extensive conversations, and this gets a little more into the conventional spiritual side, but we even think possibly the whole reason for this existence is a frequency battle for the soul, And I believe in free will and all of that, but you can get into some really interesting discussions when you start talking about all this.
It is amazing. And I think there's as many different ways of viewing it as there are people on the planet. And yet there seems to be this one overlording concept that sticks with me, is you can't get there from here. And until enough of us come into a place of more expansive frequency and create a different reality, we're going to be stuck with the same old, same old. Are you seeing it that way as well?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm really, really glad there's people like you on the planet providing this for others and helping. How do you use your remote viewing skills in your practice, Kimberly?
So a lot of times I feel consulted, especially for severe cases that other paranormal groups can't unlock. So I usually remotely view, and then as far as a follow-up, I usually go there myself if I need to follow up. But I use it because I walk through the houses and I walk through the property and I interact with the energies and the entities and the frequencies, that are there. And so I use it a lot like that. I also use it as a medical intuitive. I have the ability to go inside the body myself and kind of compare what I'm seeing with what the technology's seeing. And how else do I use it? Because I go down timelines and I try to give people some guidelines, knowing that we still have free will. But, they say, oh, there's no one standing in, my life. I'll never be in love. And I'll be like, no, in about 6 months, you've got like 8 men or 8 women standing there. So it's just, I use it a lot of different ways.
That's amazing. And are you able to consciously shift from viewing a person's physical to emotional to mental and spiritual state? Or do you just kind of take it all in at once?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. It's so funny because people always say, read me. And I said, no, I always say no, because they wouldn't be happy, because it's like 85 movie screens open up of all different areas and all different angles and all different viewpoints. And I can just literally watch the movie or go in the movie and become part of it. And so I'm a very, 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 very specific remote viewer or psychic. You need to ask me specific questions so that you're happy when we're done with the conversation.
We're going to have to call it to a close. Kimberly, it has been absolutely magnificent. Thank you for being on our show, sister. This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to this and other thought-provoking episodes on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge, comforted with love, and create the life you want to live.